If you're investing in real estate, having a clear plan and the right strategy can make all the difference between a good deal and a great one. In today's episode, Mike, Brooke, Mac, and Mary break down Project RATH, walking through the thought process behind the deal, how they approach planning and execution, and the key decisions that can impact long-term success. They also share insights on risk, strategy, and what investors should be thinking about when evaluating similar opportunities. All this and more on the Cleveland Real Estate Investor Podcast.
Hi, everybody. It's Mike and Brooke, along with our engineer, Mac. We're going to be talking about our finally starting to unveil our Project RATH. We got the first round of the masters on. I'm kind of keeping an eye on how my pool's doing while I'm talking. Got a nice spring-like day. And the Cleveland real estate market's starting to heat up with the return of the spring market. So we're going to talk about where the deals are in Cleveland. Brooke, how you doing? First day of the Masters.
Yeah, it's always a sign that spring's here.
Yeah.
So,
and next week's supposed to be mild. Maybe checking out the range this weekend.
Nice.
Really get the rust off. So we're not going to talk golf. We're going to talk real estate investing.
All right.
So tell me, we've got this Project RATH. We'll have more details on one of our ads, and we've got a bunch of TikToks coming out on it. So tell me, Brooke, you've heard me talking about this for the last couple of years. How would you describe Project RATH from what you've heard from me and others?
I would say it's a project that is probably something that is long overdue in Cleveland Heights. Probably, most neighborhoods minus, some specifics, but it's an initiative where the city goes after houses in Cleveland Heights that have vacant landlords, houses run down. It's just a total eyesore on the neighborhood. It's funny, where Mac lives and where my wife grew up in Fernway, I remember when we were first starting to date, she hadn't really, she knew of Cleveland Heights, but at the time I was living on Harvey Road, which is, it's a lot of rental homes, and, every other house just has something wrong with it.
Well, especially next door. Your next door was kind of a dump.
Yeah, it was bad. But long story short, there was a house where, there was a car parked on the front tree lawn. Screen door was falling off the hinges. The gutter had fallen off the front. The house probably hadn't been power washed in ever. Trash piling up, broken down car in the driveway. It was just, it was a total dump. And my wife was like, she didn't know anything about the city and what the city does. Not that the city does really anything, but she was like, why doesn't the city just go after the person who lives there? And I was like, yeah, that's a great idea. And she's like, yeah, in Fernway, it's like, if you do something that creates an eyesore in the neighborhood, the city's on them.
Right, and the neighbors are too.
Yeah, because I think people have a lot of pride, or they should have pride in where they live. I feel like every house I've gone from, I think not the value of the neighborhood, but, well, maybe so. Every new neighborhood I've moved to, from buying and selling the homes I live in, I feel like it always kind of gets amped up of you got to take care of your lawn. I remember my first couple months living in Blackmore, I was very mindful of I want to make sure, I keep the grass cut, weeds cut, make it look good, because my neighbors across the street, and and down the street, like they took a lot of pride in making sure that their front yard and houses were kept up.
Right.
So long story short, I mean, Project RATH is an initiative that you started to really amp up and work with the city on going after houses where they need to be fixed up.
Well, Project RATH, RATH is spelled R-A-T-H, not W-R-A-T-H. And RATH stands for Residents Against Terrible Housing. That's number one. Number two, RATH is modeled after MADD, M-A-D-D, Mothers Against Drunk Drivers. Now, why did MADD come about? MADD came about because you had moms who had lost kids to drunk drivers, and then they go to court and they find out that this guy's or this person's been in court 6 times, slap on the wrist, walks out of court, nothing happened. And then he goes out and he kills somebody else. So the Mothers Against Drunk Driving, they came into the court. They showed up in court, looking at the judge, making sure this guy got put away. Literally put away. Put him in jail. Put the heat on. RATH is going to be working with the city, but it's not going to be relying on the city. We're not there to advocate for the city. We're not a nonprofit. To me, if it's a nonprofit, it's a code word for non-action. Nothing gets done. Nothing. It's a bunch of meetings. It's a T-shirt. It's a bunch of kumbaya. But at the end of the day, Cleveland Heights has 400 bad houses, vacant, bad landlords, whatever. I mean, Harvey Road, where you lived, perfect example. I mean, we're talking about a dilapidated truck parked on the tree lawn. How come that guy's not getting fined? I mean, all I got to do is go over and fine him, call it like a speeding ticket. So what neighbors who live on Harvey Road are neighbors that live in distressed areas. They're like the people who lived in New York City back in the 70s, with the graffiti on the subways. It just became the norm. And the late, great senator from New York, Daniel Patrick Moynihan, in the 60s, he coined this phrase, defining deviance down. Something along those lines. Defining deviance down. Now, what that meant was it's a slow progression down. And then you wake up 10 years later, and that's the new norm. Like, if you had a time traveler from New York who lived in New York City in the 30s and the 40s, and you transported them to the 70s, and they saw broken down subway cars filled with graffiti inside and out, they'd say, what is going on here? This is terrible. But if it's a slow progression downward, then it just becomes the norm. A car parked on the street, on the tree lawn, 30 years ago would be unacceptable. Now it's become the norm. And that's because you have a lot of low-level stuff that just gets tolerated. Now, if you organize a street, let's say how Project RATH is going to work. We own properties in Cleveland Heights where we have that bad house on the street. Maybe it's behind us, maybe it's next door, maybe it's across the street. And we're going to contact the owner and we're going to say, you either fix it up now or I'm taking you to court. I am taking you to court. And I'm going to fine you, sue you for $10,000 because that has lowered my property value by $10,000. I mean, you have your wife, but let's say your girlfriend is now coming over there. She's driving past that dilapidated house. What's she thinking? My boyfriend lives in a ghetto, right? That's what she's thinking. How about a person who's going to drive down the street who wants to buy a house on that street? What do you think their impressions are? And so a lot of people, I mean, they are oblivious to it. Or, like in your case, maybe Karen, the landlord's running it. Maybe they've called. They'd try to talk to the landlord. Hey, can you fix my storm door that's fallen off? Or fix these ruts here? Or, I got a problem. I'm paying my rent on time and the house is falling apart and you're not doing anything. They just accept it for what it is. Project RATH. RATH meaning I'm angry, I'm mad as hell, I'm not going to take it anymore. That's what that is. So we are going to organize the street and we're going to say, we, RPC, Mike Riley, Riley Properties, we are going to sue this out-of-state landlord or this in-state landlord for $10,000 and we're going to compel them to fix it up. And we want you in court with us. That's how you get the residents involved. Now, how many people show up? Maybe initially, not a lot. But then the word's going to get out because we're going to publicize it. We're going to have a TikTok that's going to say, here we are in front of this house. This guy is in California. He didn't give a shit about this house. In fact, I know the history of this house, just like Chelsea Road. Chelsea Road, the guy lives in California. Place is a dump. Been a dump for years. And nothing's happening. Well, all of a sudden, hey, there's a wake-up call here. I'm going to sue you. I'm going to win in court. And I'm going to file a lien on your property with that judgment. And then what I'm going to do is I'm going to foreclose on that property to get my 10 grand. So if there is a slow wheel of torture going on here, slow, we're marching towards foreclosure, buddy. This isn't a letter from the city saying you need to fix up the house. This is a letter from an organization that has a vested interest in that street.
Yeah. Well,
what do you think?
I don't know. I mean, this has been something you've been talking about for
years. Like winning the lottery.
So,
like the Browns going to the Super Bowl.
I'm just curious, like what the judge would say.
Well, we've already done this twice. The second time we went in, the judge was giving me all sorts of problems, believe it or not. Of course, when I sued this guy in Forest Hill who was in state, he of course, they don't show up, right? And now I'm getting the third degree. I'm getting what? Why are you bringing it? Is that too much? I said, you want to look at this house? And unfortunately, I had the wrong lawyer representing us. Who said, well, Your Honor, Your Honor. Now, guess what? When we go into court, I'm anticipating the judge. The judge is now going to be looking at the neighborhood, maybe with some pitchforks. I'll donate some pitchforks, right? Maybe they'll come in, march into the city hall with some torches, hangman's noose, whatever. Something to give a little color for the TikTok, right, Amari? Yeah, there you go. That'll go viral.
That's compelling.
But we're also going to give a heads up to the judge. Now, the judge in Cleveland Heights, J.J. Costello, really good, decent guy, okay? But he said, hey, you work with me on the neighborhood, I'll back you up 100%. Now, let me ask this question. Mothers Against Drunk Driving. Why are you going to give a hard time to the mothers who've experienced their kid dying at the hands of a drunk driver? Okay? I can't wait for the judge to push. Now, the judge not going to be JJ. He's not going to. But say we got some rookie judge or whatever. I'm going to love that moment in court because I'm going to scream from the rafters, hey, why am I even here? This house has been like that for 3 years, right? Right? I got a notification from one of the houses that I own that I got to fix a crack in my sidewalk. Meanwhile, across the street, I got a crack house.
That's the worst part.
Right. So what it is sometimes you need to go out there in public and advocate by screaming from the rafters. You have to advocate by saying, I'm mad as hell. I'm not going to take it anymore. And there are a lot of people in Cleveland Heights going back 10, 15 years when you lived on Harvey who have made calls to the city. They've made calls to the city. They've called the mayor's action hotline. This incompetent mayor we finally got rid of. Nothing happens. Endless calls, endless calls, endless calls, endless calls. Okay, we're going to harness that anger, and we're going to work with the city. I mean, I know the people in the housing department, good people, they're overwhelmed with complaints. We can help them out. We can help them out. And you know what the interesting thing is? Statistically, there are probably 100 bad rentals. Just look at the couple on Beechwood Road, where we have two people that we manage their property, Andres and Cush. And there's about a half a dozen bad houses there. Guess what? 100 homes, bad homes, are owned by 5 landlords. 5 landlords. Anybody want to ask yourself, why are these 5 going through the revolving door? Why aren't they in court? And the judge simply says, hey, you own 12 houses I've got complaints on. You ain't walking it. You know what? You don't clean these up in 30 days, it's $1,000 a day per house. That'll help fund some new people in the housing department, right?
Yeah, then slap a lien on it.
Yeah, slap a lien, make it a moneymaker. Take these, and you know what? The word is going to get out. The word will get out not only to anybody investing in Cleveland Heights as a landlord, but also to the neighborhood. That the city is on our side. Okay? What do you think, Mac?
Hey, let's stop here. We got to pay some bills. 30 seconds, and we'll be back. The Cleveland real estate market is a jungle. And if you're investing here without a guide, you're not a real estate mogul adding another house to your portfolio, you're the fool at the poker table. Every year, investors lose serious money chasing deals. Cheap houses, bad areas, fast flips, hiring the brother-in-law as the contractor and property manager. We've been in contracting for over 50 years. Property management for over 40. We've seen the good, the bad, and the ugly. Riley Properties is your one-stop shop to avoid all the traps investors fall into. Know the table before you play the hand. Call us today for a consultation.
You're going to be doing these TTs?
Yeah. I mean, I agree with everything you say. And I know first time you brought this up to me was you, Brooke, and I played golf at Shaker, I think.
Oops.
A couple years ago. And
I bet my swing got real bad after that.
and I remember you bringing it up, and always thought it was a good idea. Now
we got Liam.
We're building some momentum. We really built out our media resources, marketing, things like that. And I think we definitely have some good ideas and take a little time to, really get everything moving. But
well, we know there's a market for it.
Yeah.
Every time I've talked to a customer, I've gone over to a customer's house that lives across the street from a bad house or next door. I mean, you could just see I've got their attention when I start sketching it. Oh man, I'll support you. I'll support this. I'll support this. Well, now we're going to organize it. And the tricky part is, with the addition of Liam on this, working with the city on the modular homes, working on Project RATH, we've got one person that we can task to do this, to do the legwork. And that's why it hasn't gotten done. That's why we've been talking about this for 2, 3, 4 years after the fiasco with, the Forest Hill Homeowners Association, that was a nonprofit that just didn't do anything on the bad houses. They had, at one point, 1,000 homes in the Homeowners Association. They had at least 50 homes that were bad. We did a count. And it was like they put their head in their sand. They didn't want to do anything. And that was like, why wouldn't you want to do anything? Your neighbors are living next to these wrecks. And it was just, you know what it reminded me of? Read the life of Robert Lister. You know who Robert Lister is?
No.
Listerine? Robert Lister, I think it was in the 1850s. Look it up on Wikipedia. Robert Lister. He actually said, you should wash your hands before you operate. People would come in with, maybe a gunshot wound or cut and whatever. And they'd have like 70% people go in the hospital would die of an infection because they weren't washing their hands. And when Robert Lister said, it took him 10 years to convince people to wash their hands. What are you talking about?
It's crazy.
It's crazy because they couldn't see it on the magnifying glass. And then, of course, they brought the magnifying glass. What years were he? Robert Lister.
The surgeon?
Yeah.
He was born 1794 to died in 1847.
So, and he was the guy that said, wash your hands. Right? He was your wash your hands guy. And you look back at it, and you say, well, of course, right? It's a no-brainer.
Yeah, but in the moment, people just...
It's just so different.
Yeah.
You know what? After the crash, here's the interesting thing. After the crash of 2008, all of a sudden, for the first time ever, people literally walked away from their house because they had maybe refied their house to pay for college. Don't get me started on that. They refied their house to the tune of maybe $50,000, $60,000, pay for kids' college. And all of a sudden the market crashes. Guess what? Now they're $50,000 in debt. They're upside down, debt to equity. So what they do, they try to call the bank. Bank had already sold the loan, the note, to some bank in, I don't know, Timbuktu. And that's what happened with my family house, my brothers. So what I told them was just walk away or live there and stop paying on the mortgage. I mean, think about it. Stop paying on the mortgage. And some of my customers that I convinced to do that, it took the banks 2 years to call them to say they were running late. Oh, maybe you're available to talk. It took them 3 years to kick them out. Okay, got 3 years, not paying mortgage, right? Okay, your credit rating is going to go in the tank, right? But guess what? Your credit rating will go in the tank for 3 years. You're living rent-free, mortgage-free, right? So maybe you got a $2,000 a month payment on some house. Okay, well, make sure you stick it in the mattress. Now you got $75,000 saved, right?
Yeah,
$75,000 saved. Mm-hmm. You go out to the marketplace. Trust me. A buyer in a seller's market with cash.
Cash is king.
Cash is king. You buy some foreclosure. There you go. But that is so outside the box.
Yeah.
Right? I mean, but it makes perfect sense. You can't contact the bank. You got hundreds of these people that thousands are in your community that are underwater. Just stop paying. And it's the same thing with Project RATH. Why can't we just find these landlords, these owners? Hey, you got a dilapidated car parked on the tree lawn. Guess what? You just got a $100 fine. I got to drive. Next time I see it, it's another $100 fine. You know what? Within 24 hours, that car is going to get moved, right?
It's funny too how in like Cleveland Heights and probably others, after a certain time in the night, if your car is parked on the street, you'll get a ticket. But if you park it on a tree lawn,
yeah,
no ticket.
Yeah. Hey, how much money can you make just driving around? I mean, let's say you've got, like we have a tenant on Glen. Neighbor called to complain. And because the garbage cans were flying around. I didn't do anything about it. Well, we're going to let them know that the association called to complain. We're going to make up a story, right? But then we're simply going to say, listen, next time we got to field a call, there's going to be a $50 fine. You got to make sure that you maintain this house. Okay? Now, we're going to help take care of the house. You got a problem with the stove. You got a problem with the toilet. We're there. But you have a responsibility to take care of this house. And a lot of landlords, amateur landlords, desperate to get somebody in, they'll get some people in with bad credit. And all of a sudden, they're not only not getting their rent, but the people are destroying the house and they're destroying the neighborhood, the street. Now the house you bought as an investment vehicle is now worth less because these people are destroying their house. Now somebody needs to go over and say, you need to clean up this shit box, right? Or I'm going to fine the landlord. And if these people aren't paying their rent and they're destroying it, they need to be fast-tracked out of that house and out of that street. So we're here. That is how you get affordable housing, right? That's how you get racial justice, which I think is, there's an irony there that some of my black customers on Graydon, on Neela View, they take meticulous care of their house. Eric on Yellowstone, best house on the street. They're renters. They treat it like their own house, garden, cut grass, stuff like that. Across the street, it's a shitbox. How about some racial justice for them? When they call the city to complain, how about finding those people? Those people on Graydon, Neela View, Yellowstone, north of Mayfield, they've been calling for years for help. And nothing. Because you get a city that is so process-oriented. Well, you got to call the mayor's hotline. You got to call this. Hey, I've already done that, buddy. Go out there and fine them. Fine them $100. Right? All you got to do, you know what? If you had a car, can you imagine having a decked out city car, put some decals on it, and you called it the house police, like Ghostbusters, right? And they're driving around and they got their ticket in. They're pulling up. They're giving them a ticket after a warning. That first week would more than pay for that car for the whole year, right?
Yeah.
All right, Brooke, what do you think? I can talk about this all day.
You could do this all day. No, I mean, you're very passionate about it. It's nice that I felt like we've been talking about it for years, but it does start to feel like there is some progress being made on like our end. So yeah, I'm curious to see what Liam, how he does. I think he'll do a great job kind of being, the person who's going up to City Hall. And
how would you like to have a job where you're bringing justice to a neighborhood? Right? What do you think, Amari? Move that mic over.
I can't engineer and talk at the same time. But
you chewing gum.
Yeah. I mean, that's something that I value a lot in work, in just in general, was like the thing that you're doing having impact in some kind of way, something that you can actually see progress getting made for. I mean, even outside of just, justice for a city. But I mean, that's even something as small as just like going around taking grabbing the trash outside, in front of the shell, in front of the building, in front of the houses there, and then you just look, around you and you see just small things that just improve the quality of life for
right.
yourself and the people that exist in that area. So this is just, Project RATH is just a much bigger version of that. And it's, like you were talking about irony, in terms of, some of these people that meticulously maintain their house and the city might be coming to them about the smallest thing, and across the street there's a total bomb.
I got
action getting done.
I got the perfect picture, which we'll put on our YouTube that Mark can put on. The Walden House, which Brooke made. The Walden House.
I remember that.
Right next to the Swales house. The Swales house, I forget his first name, great guy. Swales house, I mean, they had, when you kind of invert the bricks, create a little brick around the garden. I mean, it's just, red mulch, flowers. Right next door, vacant house, 10 years.
Didn't we do an interview with them?
Yeah, we do.
Yeah.
We'll get that on there.
Okay.
And we'll show a couple of people just talking.
Yeah, I remember that house. It was pristine.
Yeah, pristine. And you see that all the time, especially in our work, because our work, we're going out in those neighborhoods. Our customers are calling us for work. So when you're on the street and they're fixing up their house, and then you go, what about the house across the street? Oh, we've been calling for years on that. So I know there's a market. Now we are going to start executing that. And you can follow us along on the Cleveland Real Estate Investor. We're going to have some more YouTubes on this. We're going to really build this out. And let me tell you, from an investment standpoint, what I'm hoping is going to happen with Project RATH is we're going to identify a couple of streets as target streets that maybe have 4 or 5 just shitbox houses owned by the same landlord. This guy won't know what hit him. All of a sudden, his ass is going to court. And he's got 2 choices. He can either bail and sell, or he can fix it up. But the status quo is not acceptable. Okay, well, let's say he wants to sell. Now you have an opportunity to buy on the low end. It's kind of like, let's imagine a street. It's a distressed street. It's like a distressed company. You know how millions are made by Berkshire Hathaway, Warren Buffett, a lot of these vulture funds? They'll come in and they'll buy a distressed company that's maybe owned by the 3rd generation. Knucklehead son ran it into the ground, but still got a great product. They'll go in there and they'll just buy it for a song and turn it around and then sell it for a profit. That is, now, if you're investing in Cleveland, that is where you want to be. You want to be investing in a neighborhood where you can buy low. Within a couple years, that neighborhood's getting turned around. But there is a organic plan to this. Maybe some of those vacant lots, we're building a modular home, which we are in the process of doing on our Guilford vacant lot. You put in a couple of modular homes, you go after some of these bad houses, these vacant properties, these banned landlords, you rally the neighborhood, and all of a sudden you flip the mojo. That's exactly what happened in New York City. New York City made a concerted effort to go after the squeegee guys in Times Square, the porn shops, the
mob,
the winos sleeping, pissing in the, and then they started cleaning up the parks, getting the graffiti off the roads, picking up the trash in the highways. By the mid-90s, the late 90s, New York was totally transformed. If you bought a brownstone in Brooklyn near the bridge, you could have bought that for $50,000. 5 years, it's worth $5 million. That is, identifying the turnaround. And that's what we want to do. We're not going to just do one-offs. It's going to be strategic, which means we want investors out there who are going to say, or first-time home buyers. If you're a first-time home buyer in Cleveland, I'm looking to buy a house. Why don't you do what they did in New York? Park Slope. Park Slope was a ghetto. Now everybody's living in Brooklyn. That's how it happens. This isn't just a pipe dream. But now we're gonna start methodically building up Project RATH. Final thoughts, Brooke?
No. Let's make it happen.
Okay, and then we'll get in the Super Bowl.
The draft.
All right. Okay, guys, that's it for now. Coming up, YouTube, lots of good stuff. Follow us as we take
Follow Project RATH on TikTok.
That's right. All right. Thanks, everybody.
All right.
Thank you for listening to the Cleveland Real Estate Investor Podcast with Mike Riley. Please add our show or follow us on Spotify, Overcast, Apple Podcast, or Spotify. Leave a like or comment on the video. All engagement is appreciated. Subscribe to us on YouTube as well for video content coming soon. For any Cleveland listeners or Cleveland Browns fans, you can check out our other podcast, Cleveland Browns Anonymous, for our weekly group therapy session. This is also on all the same platforms as the Cleveland Real Estate Investor.